since TXT are having their comeback soon for the Chaos Chapter Freeze, I thought it would be the perfect time to kind of go through how TXT formed as a group, like from basically how each of the members came into Big Hit and became trainees, all the way up until they debuted. So first I'm going to talk about how each of the 5 boys came to be a Big Hit in the first place. So I'm going to start with Yunjin's story because he's the oldest and why not? So Yunjin was actually contacted through his social media account by a Big Hit employee and asked to come audition, but he wasn't really sure if he wanted to audition, and he actually used to be a trainee at Cube Entertainment, so we can probably assume that this was after that had happened, and that's why he wasn't sure if he wanted to be a trainee. So he just didn't answer that. And then later when he was on the subway, a different Big Hit employee actually came up to him and was like, "Oh hey, are you a trainee at a company?" And Yunjin said no, and so she gave him her card and basically said, "Hey, we want you to come audition for us." And Yunjin naturally was like, "Okay, I just got contacted by 2 different Big Hit employees in the span of like a couple hours. I can probably assume that this is fate." I mean, like, I would assume it's fate too. But basically he decided that he was going to go audition. And this is actually really impressive. Yunjin actually, at the audition, he ended up writing his own rap lyrics, which is like insane because he had never rapped before. So like, what? And honestly, I kind of feel like that was his first step into his nickname as like Big Hit's legendary trainee, which I will explain later. And he also danced to Boy in Love by BTS for his audition. And of course he passed his audition, and he's known not only as Big Hit's legendary trainee, but also as the 4th gen It Boy, so like, let's go Yunjin. Okay, now I'm gonna go into Subin's story, which personally is my favorite because it's just so funny and relatable. So basically, Subin was very shy and introverted as a kid, so he ended up filming his audition tape in the corner of his room and just emailing it to Big Hit. And he actually ended up not hearing anything back, so he decided that he was just going to forget about being an idol and just focus on his schoolwork. But then 2 months later, a Big Hit employee contacted him and said, "Hey, we want you to come in for an in-person audition." And basically what had happened is he had actually wrote down his contact information wrong, so the Big Hit employees had spent the last 2 months trying to track him down. But he was so nervous going into the audition that he was messing up all the lyrics, and he was shaking so badly that he forgot how to say goodbye properly, so he literally just left. And of course he thought that he failed it, so on the walk back he bought and ate 5 ice cream cones. I mean, like, same. But of course he passed, and he is now the leader of the group, so... Okay, so now let's do Taeyeon's story. He actually received a text message from a random number asking him to come audition, but he was like, "This seems suspicious, I didn't give my number out to anyone." But basically what had happened is his visuals had gotten so much attention from so many different agencies that Big Hit was like, "No, we need this kid." So they sent one of their recruiters to wait outside Taeyeon's school for him to come out so that they could ask him to audition. But he never came outside, and so the recruiter ended up going to one of his classmates and asking for Taeyeon's number. So Taeyeon did actually end up going to the audition, and he sang Boyfriend by Justin Bieber. And the best part of this whole story is when the recruiters asked him if he thought he passed the audition, he just said yes, like classic Taeyeon. And then he actually went ahead and chose Big Hit out of all the different agencies that wanted him, literally just because it was the closest one to his house. So I'm very curious how he feels about the move to the new Hybe building. Okay, so now I'm gonna do Hyunkai Story. And he actually is a really interesting one because him and his older sister Leah actually auditioned for basically every agency you could possibly imagine as a duo together. But they kept getting rejected, so as a last resort they decided to audition for a reality show together. Unfortunately they got rejected from that one as well, but one of the recruiters on the reality show actually ended up as an employee at Big Hit. And he actually remembered Hyunkai from his audition on the reality show, so he invited him to come to an in-person audition. And if you're wondering about his older sister Leah, unfortunately Big Hit wasn't really managing girl groups at the time, and she also had already debuted in a different girl group. Unfortunately they disbanded, but that is why Leah also didn't go with him. Now what's funny about Hyunkai's story is he actually did the exact same thing as Subin. He was super nervous, messed up his lyrics, was shaking, also thought that he failed, but of course he passed as well. Okay, so now we're gonna do Bumgyu Story. He was actually the last last one to join the company out of all 5 of the boys. And what's funny is the same recruiter that recruited Hyunkai actually recruited Bumgyu as well. So if they didn't get a raise after that, they really should have. So the recruiter actually found Bumgyu in his hometown of Daegu and asked him to come to Seoul for an audition. But Bumgyu's in the middle of his school exams at that point, so he was like, no, I can't have my exams, like I can't drive all the way over to Seoul and audition. But the recruiter was like, no, we need you. So the recruiter drove back to Seoul, which is like 3 hours away, for the night, and then drove all the way back to Daegu the next day just so he could audition Bumgyu in Daegu. What's funny about Bumgyu is he actually had auditioned for a couple different companies, but he gave them all different names. Like every time he would audition, he gave a different name. Like, I mean, it's kind of a Bumgyu thing to do. Anyways, apparently that recruiter saw how special Bumgyu was because he went through all that effort just to get him, and thankfully he did. Okay, so now that we know how each of the boys became trainees at Big Hit, let's talk a little bit more about how the actual group formed. So as we know, Yunjin joined the company first, and like I said, he was nicknamed Big Hit's legendary trainee because he never ranked less than first in the dance, vocals, or rap sections of their monthly evaluations. So a lot of people are surprised when they find out that he's actually not the leader of the group. However, Subin is the leader of the group, and he is the perfect choice. Like, he is such a good leader. So the boys actually decided on the leader themselves, which is really cool. And Big Hit actually does encourage their groups not to have the oldest as the leader because it kind of puts a lot of pressure on one person, and it also gives the other boys in the group, or if it's a girl group, the other girls, only one person to go to if they're ever having troubles. Whereas if the leader and the oldest are 2 different people, then the group has like options of who to go to, and the leader and the oldest can also like lean on each other for support. So it honestly works out really well. Okay, so now moving on to their training, TXT actually traveled to Los Angeles for a bit during their trainee period to practice their dancing. So they actually took private choreography and group lessons, and they focused a lot on like different styles of dance to basically expand their dance knowledge, which is why their choreography is so cool and unique. What's interesting is they actually focused a lot on hip-hop styles of dance because that actually was supposed to be their concept before they got the Dream Chapter Star and Crown concept. They were supposed to be doing kind of a more like heavy hip-hop kind of style, kind of more like Sriracha actually, because that song was their first debut evaluation, which unfortunately they failed, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first, for the actual length of their trainee periods, Yunjin of course was the longest at 4 years, Subin trained for 3 years, Hyunkai and Taeyeon both trained for about 2.5 years, and then Bumgyu of course was the shortest with only 2 years. Okay, so contrary to popular belief, TXT actually did not have this like comfy privileged trainee period that everyone thinks they had, and they actually struggled a lot. So they were trainees when they were in middle and high school, and they all joined the company between 2014 and 2016. So this was before BTS gained all their huge popularity, and when Big Hit was still really struggling financially. In fact, Taeyeon has said that there were literally mushrooms growing in their vocal practice room. So Bumgyu especially struggled a lot during their trainee days, and he actually mentioned how he used to cry every single day during their trainee period, and he actually had to take an entire year off of school just to catch up to the other boys, which is why him and Taeyeon were in the same year in high school, even though Bumgyu is actually a year older. And going back to what I was saying about Sriracha being their first monthly evaluation, so like I said, they did fail it, and Yunjin said that after that happened, they literally didn't sleep for 4 days straight because they were just practicing so hard so that they could pass the next evaluation. And Yunjin also said that there was 1 month where he literally slept only 2 to 3 hours every single day for like the entire month straight. So he basically just like wasn't even sleeping. And I know BTS has also mentioned that there was a lot of times during TXT's training period where they would walk past their practice room and they would literally just be sleeping in the practice room. Like they wouldn't even bother going home because they were only going to sleep a couple hours and then just come back to the company anyway. So they would literally just sleep in the practice room. Okay, so now let's move on to the days actually leading up to their debut. So on November 27th of 2018, Big Hit announced that they were going to be debuting their 5-member group at the beginning of 2019. Then on January 9th of 2019, Big Hit launched a website that had a clock on it, and it had the words you and me, and then when you interacted with the clock, it pulled up the phrase you and I, different but together. And the next day, the group name was revealed as Tomorrow by Together, which shortens to TXT, and Yunjin was also revealed as the first member, which his introduction video got an insane reaction. He literally was trending worldwide within the first 10 minutes of it being released. So 3 days later, Subin was revealed as the second member of the group. And 2 days after that, Hyunkai was revealed. And then 2 days after that, Taeyeon was revealed. And then lastly, 3 days after Taeyeon was revealed, Bumgyu was revealed as the last member. And then on February 7th of 2019, Big Hit revealed that the group was going to be releasing their debut album, The Dream Chapter Star, on March 4th of 2019. history of how TXT formed from when the boys joined the company all the way up to their debut date. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe for more stories and info about different K-pop groups. Bye! I hope you all have a lovely day!